What is up, sports fans? What is up, Seattle Mariners fans? Excited for this episode of Bleav In Mariners. Joining us today for this episode, somebody that I am super stoked to have on. He knows his stuff. He's been a player. He's been a coach. He has been watching this team lose and now win, kind of suffering through the ups and downs with us as a diehard Mariners fan, host of the Up West Sports Podcast. And if you like Mariners opinions, you've probably heard his voice already. Gavin Hite is here, man. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you? And how has your stress level been kind of dealing with the first to start the season kind of low, but right now, man, 9 series wins in a row, kind of riding high?
Dude, I can't thank you enough for having me on. I know you've joined my Friday Night Lives, so this is it's awesome. Obviously, anytime you want me on, you can count on me to be there. But in life, they say there's good beers and bad beers. You drink away the pain or you enjoy the wins. Yeah. Well, this one's for enjoying the wins. And this is Big Ballard, Red Hook, IPA, hazy IPA. Just wanted to give a shout out for a Seattle beer. But yeah, this is a good beer. 9 series in a row. We're on top of the world right now.
Yeah, this isn't a sad beer like to drown your tears in, right? And a hazy IPA. I'm drinking a Modelo Negro, by the way, right up my alley, though. Hazy IPAs, if I want to get like tossed up, I only need like 3 or 4.
Yes.
So cheers to you, man. I'm going to.
Cheers. But yeah, and here's the other thing through this whole thing. Obviously, last year with having a 10-game lead, not succeeding in keeping that 10-game lead. I try to not get too high, too low. I enjoy the wins, but I think the 24-hour rule applies to us as fans right now too.
Kind of like a baseball closer.
Yeah, right. Like if you lose, all right, screw it. You got tomorrow, and we got 162 of these things. Tomorrow's a new day. If you win, enjoy the win. Tomorrow's a new day. Let's get back after it. We got 9 more innings to watch. Hopefully 9 innings, and we could just win it in 9, not have to go and continue the stress level into the 10th and 11th. But yeah, right now, not a whole lot to be nitpicky about. Not a whole lot to be disappointed on. We talked right before the show. I think the only thing that I'm a little bit maybe bummed out about is just the injury situation. Hopefully guys aren't going to be out too long. I know we've started to see a lot of progress with Logan Gilbert and obviously George Kirby making another start in Tacoma. But you just never know. And I don't want to, there's just no reason, especially if they keep winning, there's just no reason to press a fast forward button on them. Keep them healthy. And we always knew this was going to happen, right? Like we've been so blessed over the last couple of years with minimal injuries and no Tommy Johns, knock on wood. But we knew at some point we're going to deal with injuries, and we're going to deal with injuries at more than one at a time. So we're going through that right now, and yeah, that's about it. That's the only Debbie Downer stuff I got. We're doing really well.
I love that attitude, man. I mean, I hear you. You didn't think that even with the Mariners, like not signing anybody besides Donovan Solano new to the roster in the offseason, you didn't think that you were going to be starting so shorthanded already George Kirby, to start the season without him in your starting rotation. And then you lose players really quickly in Victor Robles and Ryan Bliss, and then another layer of injuries in Luke Raley and Dylan Moore. It's just like, oh my goodness. Oh, wait, then how about Logan Gilbert? You throw him in as well. And it's just seemingly never ending. But for some reason, through that, the winning never ending. 9 straight series wins for the first time, by the way. I think you've seen this all over social media, but the first time that they've done this since July 27th through September 18th in their record-setting win season of 2001. They have the best record in baseball since April 7th, 19-7 in that time. And at 22-14, this is from Adam Jude from the Seattle Times, Gavin. The Mariners are off to their best 36-game start since 2003. Obviously, as I just said, the best record in baseball over the last month. And to begin a 6-game homestand against 2 very, very good teams. Okay, the Yankees are good. The Toronto Blue Jays have been good in the past, but they have the potential to go off on you. The Blue Jays and the Yankees, obviously, this is their longest such streak since actually winning 15 straight series in 2001. They have not been this good for a long time, I guess, is the point that I'm trying to make. So I ask you, in response to that, a little concern about the injuries, but man, the offense seems to be clicking through that. Is this team actually this good, or is this just like a hot streak that is going to taper off a little bit?
We actually did discuss this on last Friday Night Live. Is we are digging such a good high right now. And if you remember the year that we finally made it to the World Series, 2022, we had that 14-game winning streak right before the All-Star break. And I think it, there's going to be a dip in this season, is what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm trying to also say, don't get too high, don't get too low. Enjoy the wins. Enjoy the wins. This is not going to last forever. We're not going to continue to win every series from here on out. That's just not how baseball works. Even the Dodgers, even the precious Dodgers, are not going to do that the entire year out. It's just not feasible. However, when that time comes, don't get too low. We're going to have maybe 2 or 3 series where we just aren't on the winning side, where guys aren't they're just not performing. Slumps happen. You just hope you mitigate those. You just hope that instead of putting them all together, you kind of spread them out. Like you lose a series and you try and not get swept through the whole thing, but you lose a series and then you win a series, and then you lose a series and then you win a series. And then you try and get back to where you're supposed to be. So yes, right now it's the next man up situation, and everyone's stepping up to how it's been going. But there's going just stay with us now. There's going to be a dip in this season. Don't let it affect you, is what I'm trying to get at.
But there won't be a 10-game lead that's totally blown in a record-setting amount of time, right? Like I don't see that coming. This offense seems to be, and I hate to use the word consistent, because in sports, if you're literally paid to be consistent. You're supposed to be good. But I think here it actually does apply the term consistency as far as like coming from behind, or actually seeing, like runners in scoring position being hit in, as opposed to like a chaos ball style win. Kind of leads me to my next question. Like the way that they're winning composed to this year as composed to in 2024, obviously more of that chaos ball. There were some of those 1-run wins early in the season, those late inning games, but it wasn't like a base hit from Cal Raleigh, pinch hit clutch, Rowdy Tellez coming in hitting a bunch of clutch home runs. It was more so like a walk-off base on ball, or like a walk-off passed ball, or some kind of wacky error that ended up, I would say elevating the Mariners a little bit above their station to that 10-game lead, but it just doesn't feel the same. Do you kind of see a difference from last year's early season wins? Because right around last year, around this time, going towards Memorial Day, they were 3.5, 4 games up in the West. They were in first place in the West, but I see a difference in wins. How about you?
Yeah, the way they're winning, obviously the offense producing, because you know what the pitching staff can do when they are when they're running on all cylinders. You know what the pitching staff can do. The fact that the hitters have turned a corner, call it whatever you want. I have seen some. Actually, I did dissect this with one of my co-hosts just earlier today. The 70 some odd games that Dan has been the head coach. And I will give Scott credit. I feel like Scott tried to manufacture runs from time to time. You saw him bunt maybe more than other teams did, to just try and put the game in motion, chaos ball, as you call it.
Yeah.
We've seen more bunts with Dan Wilson in this 70-game span to try and manufacture runs. And I'm not sitting here and gonna be a big advocate that you need to bunt, but when the situation calls for it, and you got guys that aren't hitting the ball, yeah, it's time to call for it. But on top of all that, we just don't need to bunt a whole lot right now. Everyone's finding their way on base. Everyone's stealing bags. I think they have a 14. Like it's 1 out of every 14 runners that gets on is stealing second.
It's a crazy clip.
And so. We're moving. We're putting the game in motion, and it's because we have just guy after guy that comes in and has full athleticism and just ways to get on base. Credit that to the entire way that they're going about their philosophy at the plate. So I think the way that they're winning games is more sustainable, and it's going to help in the long term, and it's going to be different than last year.
And there have been a few different recent points. Buster Only of ESPN kind of in a recent article talking about how the Mariners have been, since Edgar Martinez and Dan Wilson took over, one of the top 3 teams back to August, when, after coming off of a 1-8 series on the road, Scott Service was canned, Dan Wilson was brought in, and essentially literally on that date now, it's almost a sample of 80 games, as you said, 74 or so games. The Mariners have been second or third in every offensive category besides batting average. Home runs, OPS, walks. I mean, they're just getting it done in ways that they didn't. We've seen more sacrificed flies early in the season. You talk about bunts. I think a small ball, obviously bunts, but sacrificed flies have been huge. And actually turning your at-bats into team at-bats, as simple as that sounds, Gavin, it's just not something that Seattle was good at doing last year. But Edgar Martinez, man, that see ball, hit ball mentality, that, hey, when you get to 2 strikes, this ain't your at bat anymore. I mean, it's simple stuff, but you got to give those 2 credit. And I think that's another difference as well that you have to point to.
You made a good point there too. The other part that I forgot to point out, and I don't have the exact stat, so apologies, I didn't come prepared.
No, you're good. You're good.
It's more so for the listeners, because I know they're like stat hounds and like, oh, well, what is it? So with runners in scoring position, they are striking out way less, and that's huge. They're finding ways to get productive outs. Which I know it's an old school way of approaching, because we don't have guys that are just sitting there hitting bombs, but we kind of do. Well, we kind of have that as well. We have, I think he's still tied for the lead with
as
home
we're
runs.
taping this. Yes, he is.
Yeah, still tied for the lead. And then you got guys turning corners, and you got guys that are stepping up like Ben Williamson. But the fact that you're able to mitigate those strikeouts with runners in scoring position and finding productive outs, moving runners over, playing the old school way of baseball when you have to, that's attributing to wins. Absolutely.
No, that's a great point that you bring up too, Gavin, because there was, even as the Mariners, they started off 3-7, a little nervous, but since April 17th, or since April 7th, the best record in baseball, they've kind of transitioned even through that. Some of those wins in the middle of that time weren't good looking wins. They still had a couple of 9, 10, 11 strikeout performances in there. They still had a couple of games where instead of like 5 for 12 with runners in scoring position, you're looking at 3 for 13, 3 for 14. And just that extra hit or two that you see great teams come through with, teams like the Dodgers, teams like the Yankees, whether they're highly paid or not, teams like right now, the second best team or the best team to some in the American League, the Tigers, that do that well. The Mariners weren't, but as we've kind of see them just now, all of a sudden, they're the comeback team in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, getting elite hits. Cal Raleigh coming in with a torpedo bat, 2 home run games, a pinch hit, go-ahead RBI single. These aren't things that we were seeing Seattle do. So I think it's just something new to Mariners fans, but it's definitely something that obviously we're not going to complain about, but it's definitely something that, you've seen this like the last 2 or 3 weeks, you've just seen them getting better, because now they are 5 for 12 in runners in scoring position. Rowdy Tellez coming in, pinch hit home run, like 3-run bomb over the wall, and more so like of a golf swing. He just goes and gets it. My dad actually pointing out that it seems like Rowdy Tellez has kind of just been coming in as like the golfer. He'll go and get a tough pitch and just kind of bloop it over the wall with his power, obviously. I'm not calling him weak, but it takes a strong MFer to bloop that over the right field wall, and he's been doing that so well. So anyways, just lots of guys to kind of lean on and talk about, but one that we have to ask about, Gavin, the newest Seattle Mariner, and somebody that made an immediate impact with that game-winning base hit on Wednesday to help the Mariners seal that 9th series in a row against the Athletics. Leody Taveras, man, just arrived, made an impact, not until late in the game, but I would say looked Victor Robles-esque with the go-ahead RBI single and then an immediate stolen base after that. I'm not saying he's going to be like Victor Robles, but just coming in and looking like that, obviously the former top prospect is ready to make an impact, I believe. I think Texas maybe gave up on him a little too soon. They fired their hitting coach, brought in Brett Boone. Maybe they need a little bit of see-ball, hit-ball mentality themselves down there in Texas. But do you think that Leody Taveras could offer the same kind of production while Victor Robles is out? And frankly, where do you see him fitting in on the roster the rest of the season?
No, I'm really glad you brought him up. I love the move, and I'm glad that we had the money to make it happen. And maybe that's where We had 2 new owners get added to the ownership group last week and everything. So maybe this is where they come in. Maybe they can help us out with the trade deadline. Maybe they can help us out with the $3+ million that Leody's added to our payroll, or however much it is. Don't quote me
I
on
think
that.
like 3.5.
It's like 3.5, I believe. Maybe that's where they come in and they help spell us a couple million to get us across the finish line. Leody Taveras, I see you make a great point with Victor Robles. I see a lot of similarities there. They play kind of the same game. They're athletic guys that hit for contact. They steal bags. They play just that gritty style of baseball. They're great outfielders. Yeah, and they're center fielders that you're able to put in the corner outfield. Right? They are center fielders. Victor Robles playing center field is very good. You happen to have one of the best center fielders in all of baseball. So you spell him and you put him in the corner. Leody Taveras comes in and does the same thing. Now, he has the recipe to kind of give you what you got out of Victor Robles, especially since he's going to be working with the same hitting crew. Maybe they can shift him into that mentality. He is that contact, or supposed to be that contact guy, with probably a little bit, I would say, a little bit more power than Victor Robles was able to kind of bring to the table. I think Victor
14
Robles
home runs in 2023.
Yeah, so there's definitely room for him to add some OPS and put you in a really good spot. Yeah, I love the move. I love that they're bringing him in to join that outfield crew. I think you have one of the best outfielders, or one of the best outfields, sorry, in all of baseball right now, with Leody Taveras and Julio Rodriguez. Yeah, I guess he's not necessarily known for his outfield, but if you got those two, you can afford to have whatever Randy Arozarena. And I've seen him make some great plays in left field. He doesn't have a terrible arm. Not quite Yoenis Cespedes, but he doesn't have a terrible arm. So with those three in your outfield and just the vibes they're bringing, I love it. I love it. And it looks like Leody fit right in. That was the great thing. You saw him just vibe with the team. And we're off and running, man. We're not looking back. We're moving forward every day. And I love that part about what they've been able to do. They've been able to keep everything positive even when things aren't going their way. I think you probably watched the game, that first game of the series against the A's. That umpire, listen, I'm not one to call out umpires, but man, he was bad. He was pretty bad. They didn't let it affect them. They didn't. They were down. They were down pretty big, and they came back and ended up winning that game and everything. And yeah, it's just one of those things where they're not letting the negative stuff snowball. They're mitigating that, and they're able to find ways to stay positive and just, hey, you know what? This is baseball. We're gonna have bad umpires every now and then. We're gonna have bad pitches. We're gonna have all this stuff. Throw it behind us. Let's keep going.
Yeah, and I want to get to what the umpires control here, pitching here in just a second. There are a couple of questions I had, not only about the bullpen, but specifically Andres Munoz, and just what an unbelievable performance he's given you so far this season. But you got to look at just a couple of more players for the Mariners that have been very successful. I mean, I don't really need to ask about Cal Raleigh. We all know what he is. We all know what he's doing right now. I think one in particular, maybe beyond like Rowdy Tellez offering some of those good at bats, as we were just saying, Julio Rodriguez, I think the supposed superstar, or the hopeful superstar on this team, he is looking like a different player in the last 2 weeks or so. A couple of stats. It's not just me saying it. The numbers prove it. A couple of stats to throw out. He has yet to strike out in May one time, 24 straight at bats without a strikeout. He struck out in the 5th inning last Wednesday was the last time he did so. 203 WRC plus, 2 home runs, 316, 409, 632 batting average, slugging, and OPS. So those are his main numbers. Kind of looks like the beginning of a Julio heater. At least that's who Trident's Up is thinking is going to go on a heater next, at least for the Mariners. That was his tweet on X. Really appreciate it. And then Mariners Muse also stating his K rate now under 20% for the season. I responded to that and said that is basically Mariners porn. And it really just seeing the fact that Julio Rodriguez is at the plate, and it's those numbers that we're not only seeing on paper, but we're seeing him lay off some of those sliders. We're actually seeing him expand the zone in the right way, and we're seeing 2-strike hits from Julio. We've seen a couple more homers early in the season than we have from him recently. I guess, Gavin, the question is, has Edgar fixed Julio, and should we expect to see more of this consistent or just albeit good, more superstar like play that we expect from him.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think with Kevin Seitzer and with Edgar Martinez both working with him, he's able to get over some of those mental humps, and he's able to. Edgar was. We talk all this time. Like I know, growing up, Edgar had this thing where he would put numbers on a tennis ball, and then he'd shoot the tennis balls as fast as he could, and he'd try and read the numbers, and he would be able to do it. So a little stuff like that where he's maybe able to give drills, or just that, again, I go back to the old school mentality, or just kind of those kind of stupid things that you can do to train your eyes. I think he might be doing some of that stuff to say, hey, here's what a slider looks like. They're going to throw it with 2 strikes, man. They're going to throw it with 2 strikes. Here's what it looks like. Let's see it 200 times before your next at bat. And they're able to do that, especially with the technology, right? Like, you have all these VR systems where you can set up a pitcher that you're facing tomorrow. Or you could set up a machine and have it run a 90-mile-an-hour slider low and away. There's several different ways of being able to attack that, and I think they're able to attack that. Julio strikes me as the type of person that just always gets after it. He's always positive minded, comparative to maybe some of the other guys. He's just, he'll strike out, he'll give himself the 20-second rule. It'll just be like, all right, you know what? It is what it is. Next at bat. And he finds ways to stay positive. I think the only thing I would have done differently over the past, past month, as he was kind of going through his struggles or slumps or whatever, the only thing I would have done, because your offense was so good and you can actually spell him of this, is I would have put him down probably at 6, 7, 8, just so he can, just no pressure, man. We have Polanco that's killing it right now. Don't worry. We're going to find offense. Just go, be towards the bottom of the lineup. I know that it sounds like a demotion, but it's actually just to help you get through a mental struggle right now. That's it. That's all it is. Hopefully you can see more fastballs. You're going to have other guys hitting around you. They're going to want to, they're going to open up the door for some other guys to see fastballs as well. So that's about the only thing I would have done differently, but I'm so glad that he was able to find it. I mean, he's still in the midst of finding it. He's still pushing through. But yeah, I think everybody, Mariner Muse and who I Bleav is Trident's up. Yeah. Those guys are onto something. I think he is the next guy to turn a corner. And I think as we enter the month of June, which is usually about that turning point for Julio, I think as we enter the month of June, now we're looking at a breakout player, and the Julio that we all know.
Another player having a breakout season so far, J.P. Crawford, back at the top of the lineup, setting the table again for everybody. It seems like that he's, I know that the Mariners kind of go, at least the last couple of seasons, it's just felt like they go as Julio goes, they go as Cal Raleigh goes sometimes. But looking at how J.P. Crawford has just returned to form, elite on base percentage again. Dude walks a lot. He's hitting almost 300 over a period of a week leading up to the Athletic Series. He was hitting like 450. I mean, I just feel like he is much more important to the Mariners lineup and their success on offense than people let on last season. Also, Randy Arozarena. I mean, you just look at these box scores. It's so nice to see guys hitting 220 and above. Randy Arozarena having a much better season to start the year. And you actually talk about bringing Taveras in. That possibly could set up with Victor Robles healthy again later in the season after the All-Star break. If you play those guys, Taveras and Robles in the outfield, give Arozarena more DH at bats. That kind of solves a little bit of a problem as far as having one less guy on offense. You filled that spot with Taveras. Then maybe Luke Raley can take the other at bats in right field or at first base, that Rowdy Tellez isn't taking, or excuse me, I guess they're both left-handers. So you're going to have to find a way to give Luke Raley at bats, that designated hitter as well. But what that does is forces you to stop having to lean on a guy like Donovan Solano and maybe keeps you from having to go get like a first baseman on the trade market. That's just best case scenario, because remember, the Mariners still need a first baseman, at least at this point. Rowdy's good, but they're still giving it back to Donovan Solano. So I don't know if you think maybe waiting for a situation like that to materialize would be better than maybe going to get somebody, or just bringing Tyler Locklear up to get at bats at first base. What say you, Gavin?
Yeah, we do have internal options, which is nice. Not to say that Tyler Locklear is going to come up and kill it, but also he's proven something. He's doing something that we all
Yeah.
like. But we all remember the Alex Leody days, where the guy put up 30 bombs in AAA, and then, he did what he did. So
4A player, like to
4A
call that a
player.
4A player.
4A player. We've seen the Cade Marlows. We've seen, we actually didn't get to see Jake Shiner. He was one I actually did want to see at the top. They just never gave him the opportunity. Now he's playing overseas.
I think
but we do have
probably a 4-way player, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think Dominic Canzone is that guy. And he's kind of at that weird point in his career where if you can't put him in the outfield, I don't think he would be a terrible move to first base.
Probably not.
Probably not, because he doesn't have a cannon of an arm. It's not like you need his arm in the outfield.
No.
He's not slow, but he's definitely not fast. If you needed him to play first.
So the time,
he's 27.
It's kind of ticking on him at this point. And I think this is his second to last year of options. So next year they're going to have to make a decision on the kid. So it's just, you're right. They have internal options, but at this point, because they've been so injured, Rylan Thomas has been up making his debut. He was the fourth one to make his debut for the Mariners this season. Just not many options, unfortunately, internally, but they have them. You're right.
Yeah. The other person I wanted to point out, just because I did see, I've been trying to keep tabs on him since spring training because he really impressed me in spring training. And everybody's like, oh, don't pay attention to spring training stats. Well, I pay attention beyond that. The guy's got a good swing. Jared Sundstrom is doing very well in AA. Okay. He's somebody just keep in the back pocket. Him and Michael Hobbs, unrelated. He's a pitcher. But if you're looking for further depth for relief pitcher, I know we talked about that real quick. I wanted to give him a shout out because he's been the closer in AA, been kind of killing it. He has a sub-1 ERA. He's been pitching in high leverage situations. Just want to give him a quick shout out. But back to Jared Sundstrom. He is another guy that could potentially crack the roster at some point this year if it's continuing to be the next man up. And obviously Rylan Thomas is doing. He's there. We're hoping that he can kind of figure it out, but also he just made his major league debut. Give the guy 5 games before we just kind of say, hey, he's not a major league player for the Mariners. Yeah. But also, if it's going to be next man up scenario or next man up, and we're just looking internally, that's what we have. Externally, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be kind of hard to find a first baseman that maybe fits in that financial frame. And obviously, if we're looking at a guy like Pete Alonso, which I don't think he'd be on the table, but if you're looking at a guy like Pete Alonso, you're gonna have to give up a lot to get him, and then you're gonna have to pay him. I know Rafael Devers is very frustrated with his tenure in Boston. So
he won't play first, though.
And he won't play first.
Or at least, and he doesn't want a DH either, apparently.
He doesn't want a DH, but he's also in a situation where I think he's like $30 million. Like, it's not cheap. So it's like you're going to have to give up a lot to get him, and you're going to have to pay him. So, that's kind of what that looks like moving forward and on that front.
Well, and on the other side of things, it's probably a good thing the Mariners didn't end up trading Luis Castillo in the offseason for Tristan Casas. I mean, hindsight is 20/20, but unfortunately, terrible injury for Casas, tripping over Ty France's foot going to first, running out of ground ball. He's out for the rest of the year with a torn Achilles. Who knows how he returns from that? And the Mariners, even in that trade that was proposed in the offseason, would have had to take on Tanaka's money in right field as well. So it wasn't a perfect deal. And with the Mariners dealing with pitching issues and next guy up mentality needed on the pitching side of things as well, it's probably a good thing that they have Luis. And he's been okay. I'd say he probably looked the most locked in his last start that he did all season, frankly. He kind of seems to me that in some of his games where he struggles early on, it's maybe more a little bit of an aloof thing. He's just not all there, but I love to see him locked in. He actually looks focused, and I'm not sure we're going to see many more struggles from him. But just speaking of that next man up mentality, kind of moving to the pitching staff, we got to give our flowers to Andres Munoz. That guy has just been, obviously the best reliever in baseball through this first month. But can we talk about, I know it was a loss, but that performance against the Athletics where he came in and unfortunately blew the save just because of ghost runners. I hate that ghost runners exist. I hate this that we just add somebody at second. It's just not baseball. I'm an old school guy. I wish that we had expanded 40-man roster still in September. I liked a pitcher change every 2 minutes. I didn't mind that. I'm like, hey, all right, these managers are using what they're allowed to use. This is cool. But Munoz, despite the blown save in that situation, that was not an earned run that he gave up, still has a 0.00 ERA and struck out the 3 top of the lineup hitters for the Athletics. Are you freaking kidding me, to keep the Mariners in it? I mean, if he continues this performance, I don't see a reason why. Like, he would be one of the guys shouldering the load alone to get the Mariners into the playoffs, because they're going to win a lot of one-run games if Munoz continues to close them out like this.
I gotta say something to that as well. Andres Munoz is a very, very dangerous pitcher. Angry Andres Munoz is the deadliest pitcher out there. Because you saw him turn a corner when he didn't get that call, and they were really starting to squeeze him, and things were just kind of going in motion. You saw him take a deep breath and just lock in, and it was a completely different Andres Munoz. Not that he hasn't been at that place before. I can't remember one off the top of my head, but you saw him go to a place that we haven't really seen, and he locked in. And you just saw a completely different Andres Munoz, because he entered the game and he was struggling to find the strike zone for a little bit, right? And he was just kind of all over the place, wasn't there fully, I guess, locked in mentally. And you just saw that all go away, and you saw him get mad. And that's what I loved. You have to have, just from playing the game myself, and I'm not a closer. I'm a starting pitcher, and that's just, I love my routine. I cannot do that. I tried to be a closer. They tried to put me in that role at my freshman year at Western Oregon. Not for me, because I love knowing when I'm going to throw. You have to be a little bit of a psycho to make that work. If you look at the best ones, there's only one that I know that maybe he just doesn't come off as a psycho, and that's Mariano Rivera, one of the greatest of all time. But I guarantee you, inside of his head, he's calm demeanor, but I guarantee you, inside of his head, he's got a little bit of psycho in him. Andres Munoz turned psycho that night, and I love it.
Man, yeah, and just thank goodness that they have somebody like that, because the bullpen has frankly just been, it's like a game of Russian roulette. They're playing juggling essentially with guys out of AAA. I mean, it's funny, as we tape this, they just signed Casey Lawrence to a minor league deal again. You go back, I got to clip it on my last episode of Bleav In Mariners. I said, this is going to happen. Casey Lawrence is going to be back in the Mariners organization, because the Blue Jays just let him go, and Jerry DiPoto loves him some Casey Lawrence. I mean, it's crazy. Just in 2025, I actually found this on X. M's called him up 4.9, DFA'd him 4.14. He's back in free agency 4.16, and then the next day, a minor league deal in Tacoma again. The next day after that, 4.18, called him back up. 2 days later, 4.20 on Easter, DFA'd, then sent back to the Rainiers 2 days after that. But the next day after that, called up again. He has literally been up and down 5 times with the Mariners, DFA'd and claimed by the Blue Jays, and now back with this organization once again. So perfect representation of the juggling the Mariners are having to do in the bullpen right now. Matt Brash is back. I think his ceiling, or his return, kind of changes the ceiling for where the bullpen can be. Obviously, we were not happy with Greg Santos, and just unfortunate to see, I mean, a guy with power not able to use it, just has to pitch to contact and then can't even do that. And the performance, I can't even remember the team, but wherever he gave up all the walks and late inning runs that ended up losing the game for Seattle. Just unfortunately,
Giants. I think that was the Giants, because I think because he had a couple backstop throws, and I think it was I think that was the Giants. Because
I just want to forget that series, because Victor Robles went down. We saw Santos basically get his one-way ticket.
It was
back
still
to
a good. That's a crazy. It was still a good series. It was still.
You're not wrong, man.
We lost 1-run games. It sucks as a fan, but as you look at it, because I'll say the same thing for the A's.
Yeah,
the A's fans said the same thing. That was a great series, even though they lost 2 of those games. They were all great games. So yes, I agree.
I want to forget it, but you're right. Still a great series. But thankfully with Brash back now, Tommy John surgery recovery, not necessarily looking 100% yet, but I would say close. He's settling in. Along with that, you have Gabe Spire performing very well this year. But one guy I got to ask you about really quickly before we look ahead to the Blue Jays series, and that is Trent Thornton. The fixation by Trent Thornton by manager Danny Wilson is something I know you were talking to me about before we started taping the episode. But I gotta say, man, I know Thornton has looked bad at times this year, giving up a lot of late inning home runs and just not looked as sharp as he usually does. But that 2-inning performance nails to keep the Mariners in the game late, leading to that Andres Munoz 3 strikeout inning, even though the Mariners lost on Monday against the Athletics. But the fixation by Dan Wilson through that, like, I know you're not a fan of it, but I tell you what, I'm all here for Trent Thornton, and I do think that he's going to be with the team through better or through worse, unfortunately, maybe against the wishes of many Mariners fans.
Yeah, and listen, I got my stuff with Trent Thornton. He's had a wonderful tenure as a Mariner. His past couple of years, he's come in situations that I don't think was expected to come in. He's come in high leverage situations and done a fine job. And now that we're starting to get some of these pitchers back, like Matt Brash, Troy Taylor, some of these other guys that can help in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. Now we have a slightly different role that I'd like to see for Trent Thornton, but always give credit where credit is due. He came in, he rocked it for those 2 innings. Not going to be nitpicky because it was a little roller coaster, Rodney, right? We got runners getting in the scoring position. We're like, all right, what's going on here? No,
but then the balls by Dan Wilson to bring him out the next inning, like, what?
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Dan sees something, all right, and I'm not going to fault it until it actually takes us out of contention. Right. If it's causing us game after game after game, every time he's going out there, then I will speak up. But he sees something in him. He's obviously in the clubhouse with him. He knows that he's doing something to keep him to not only keep him on the roster, but to keep him coming in clutch situations. So he's doing something behind the scenes that gives Dan a lot of faith. So as long as Dan's behind him, you know what? I'm going to be behind him as well. I think that there's, in my opinion, I think there's other opportunities internally, like I mentioned with Michael Hobbs. I think there are other options internally that might has the potential to give you a better alternative. But also, all right, let's run this Trent Thornton train until it's no longer able to be ran.
All right, I almost forgot to ask about starting pitching before we look ahead quickly to the Blue Jays series, and then I will let you go. I really appreciate the time you spent with us. Gavin Hite, Up West Sports podcast host, joining us here on this episode of Bleav In Mariners. So the starting rotation kind of been a reason that the Mariners have had to juggle that bullpen so much. Unfortunately, the first start of the year by Emerson Hancock was just terrible, but he has really recovered since then. And actually, you look at his last 3 starts, man, 6 innings each. And I know that he gave up 3 runs against the Angels, but looked pretty good against the Athletics, walked a couple, but struck out a couple as well. But that game against Boston, probably the best game of his career, 6 innings and 7 strikeouts, giving up only a couple of earned runs and 5 hits at Fenway. I'm not sure that you can send him down at this point. The Mariners most likely going to be getting George Kirby back after 1 more rehab start or 2 at Tacoma. And Logan Gilbert, better than even imagined. His injury not as bad as we thought. At least that's what Jerry DiPoto told MLB Network last Friday. He was already throwing, doing some pregame routines at the series down in Texas. So probably going to see him back sooner than expected. I guess at this point, you've got options to send Hancock, Logan Evans, or the struggling Bryce Miller down. Not sure what's going on either, if it's an injury, if he's just having delivery problems or mechanical problems. You're a former pitcher. You can speak to that. Which one of these 3 guys, or I guess 2, excuse me. So I guess which one is the odd man out? Do you see the Mariners keeping, and then the other guys that they ended up sending down, unfortunately?
Yeah, no, honestly, a great topic of discussion because yeah, you got guys that are starting to circulate themselves back into the rotation. We've seen in the past, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to Bryce Miller. I mean this because this is what could potentially be best for his career and career development. But we've seen just last year, Brian Wu didn't seem like he was hurt or injured, but yet they put him on I call it the Phantom IL, because they just kind of put him on there and they're like, all right, we just need to give him a couple weeks break. I think that might be what you need to do with Bryce Miller. Not that he needs it physically. I think he's still able to run it back up to 96, but then we've seen it as low as 92. And so it just kind of it keeps a head scratcher. Obviously, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but we can just looking at what we have to work with. I think he might be able to benefit from just a little bit of a break and just just a stopgappage and just saying, hey, go and just throw like a bullpen. Throw a bullpen or two, get yourself back on track, give your arm and body the rest it may need, and then we'll see it in 2 weeks or see in the 15 days or 14-day IL, whatever it takes for him to get back. I don't think it necessarily equates to him dropping down to AAA and going to get starts there. I think it just is fatigue. I think it just is a little bit of time that he just needs to kind of get off and get back on track. Just give his body the rest, because right now it's way too early in the season for us to just keep pressing this guy every 5th day for more and more innings and just, hey, we need you to spell our bullpen, so we need you to get through at least the 6th. Hopefully you get through the 7th. No, there's no need for that. You got George Kirby back. Obviously, we don't know if he's going to hit the ground running. Is he going to give us 5-6 innings the first start back? Or is he only going to give us 4 innings and they want to limit his pitch count to like 50, 60 pitches? It really just depends on what that looks like at the major league level. Even though he might get up, for those of you paying attention to Tacoma Rainiers and watching him pitch, he might get up to 60 or 80 pitches in a start down there. But that doesn't always equate to him getting 60 to 80 pitches at the major league level. It just kind of depends on his development. It really does. It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, I think with everything, and I got receipts. I want to next pivot over to Emerson Hancock. I have receipts saying Emerson Hancock needs to still be a Seattle Mariner because he's and here's the thing: he's never going to have sexy numbers. He's not going to have a high K per nine. He's not even going to have an incredibly good walk per nine. But he is going to be a great number 5. I think he's going to be able to give you 5 innings and 3 runs or less. He's going to be able that's what you should expect out of your number 5. And then every now and then he's going to be able to give you a 6th inning. And that's a quality start. 6 innings, 3 runs. He gives you a quality start every couple of outings, and he gives you 5 innings, 3 runs. I mean, I think he's going to be set up. And yeah, he's going to get blown up every now and then, like we saw in his very first outing. And then he's going to go to Boston and put up 6+ with no runs or 1 run or however many he gave up. You're going to see him when at the end of the day, you're going to see him be very close to like a 4.5 ERA, 4 to a 4.5, somewhere in that regards. And I know ERA doesn't spell the whole truth, but it shows you kind of, okay, like a 4.5 ERA is a quality start. Right, 6 innings, 3 runs, like that's a quality start. That's the type of guy you're going to get out of him, and then you're going to get those boosts every now and then of him being able to go 6 or 7 innings and sub 3 runs, and then you're going to get him blown up. Like that's just part of the game. But that is a solid. You look at any other team, that's a solid number 5. And then Logan Evans is still getting his feet wet, so I can't. You can't be too harsh on the guy. But I think he is set up to be the next Emerson Hancock. If you have 2 of those guys that are just waiting around and can flip-flop, like let's say Emerson Hancock has 2 bad outings and you're like, okay, well, we brought Logan Evans down to get George Kirby back into the rotation. Now you flip-flop them because they both still have options. So you have options for quality 5th starters, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
No, it's a good problem to have, essentially, is what you're saying. The fact that we're even having this discussion, I know that the Mariners are short on hitters, but not short on pitchers. So that's definitely something they can thankfully continue to lean on as a strength in their organization. All right, Blue Jays and Yankees coming up. We'll get you out of here, Gavin, on this 6-game homestand. Very important for Seattle, I think. A 3-game lead over the Athletics in the AL West as we tape this. But they can beat up on the Blue Jays, and traditionally, lately, the Mariners have. Cal Raleigh, the Blue Jays killer. But what's one thing you're going to be watching the most closely over this 6-game homestand for the Mariners, leaders of the AL West right now?
I guess first things first, I'm very curious because the Mariners marketing team is really trying to put together, hey, can we pack the crowd with our fans? So that's been a big initiative over the past couple of weeks. I've been seeing it on every game I watch. Hey, pack the stadium for this series and this series, and it's the Yankees and it's the Blue Jays. Obviously, anybody who goes to those Blue Jays games, you'll take note. It's mainly Blue Jays fans because, well, we're 3 hours away from BC, and they all come down to support the one team. And here's the other thing. Here's my crazy take. I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but
You're good.
my crazy take is that Vancouver should have an MLB team. To give us a close rivalry because we have the most mileage on any other team. But B, it gives Toronto. It gives Canada a West Coast team, and it gives them two teams. So now I'm tired of seeing all these Blue Jays fans that cover the whole country come down to to our neck of the woods. But throughout the series, what I'm also excited to truly see is just the continuation of the hitting. Is the next man up mentality. If Cal Raleigh's going to have a bad series, which I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's tough for him to have a bad series against this team. But if he's going to have a bad series, who's going to be the guy that steps up? If Polanco's going to have a bad series, who's going to be the guy that steps up? If Julio has a bad series, who's that next guy? And so far, it's always been somebody. It's been Leo Rivas. It's been Mastroboni just coming in with timely hitting. And it's not even like guys hitting 6 RBI in one game. It's just clutch hitting with runners in scoring position from multiple guys. It's been a complete team effort, which you love to see. So that's what I'm excited to see is the continuation of this team. And just one last thing is Leody Taveras. Now that we're getting to see him in a full series against a pretty quality team, I'm curious on what Leody Taveras can show throughout this time period.
And one guy I didn't mention during the podcast, but I probably should have, Leo Rivas, man, still just nailing it down at second base. Kind of made it easy for the Mariners losing Ryan Bliss, unfortunately. Thankfully, they don't really have to shuffle guys around at that position so far. Leo Rivas kind of just slipping in as the starting second baseman since then, so making it easy. All right, Gavin, we are kind of up against it, though, man. We have run out of time. Appreciate you hopping on. It's good to talk to somebody who watches the games, really into this. There's too many Mariners fans out there, actually just baseball fans in general, that read the box score and then they'll just go on and they'll bitch on Twitter, and it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And Jerry DiPoto, he's accused Mariners fans of doing that. Well, they probably haven't even heard the 54% comment. They just saw it. No, you and I both, we listened to that 54% comment from Jerry. We know what we're talking about. So appreciate it. If you're not already following Gavin, go fix that. Up West Sports on X, Up West Sports on YouTube. Where is that? Appreciate you, dude. Please, let's do this again soon. Maybe after another 9 series wins, huh?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I did want to give a quick shout out because Jordan potentially is going to be on our Friday Night Live tomorrow night.
Yes.
So whenever this pops off, if it's later tonight or if it's Friday morning, you're going to see us tonight. We're going to be live. Hop on over to Up West Sports. You're gonna catch Jordan as well.
Yeah, I'll be on there.
Thank you for having me on.
No, appreciate you, man. Congrats. You hit 100 subscribers. I think you're at 110 or 115 now, dude. That's awesome. That 100 subscriber milestone on YouTube is so hard to get to. I think I'm at 82. So we'll get there. We'll all get there. We're just all a high tide raises all boats, right?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, right, man. Thank you so much.
No, thanks again, man. We'll have you on soon. All right. Gavin Hite, Up West Sports Podcast. Go check him out. This has been episode 34 of Bleav in Mariners. Make sure you keep those tridents up, Mariners fans. Stay safe, everybody. See you soon.